Okay, today's episode is for my intuitives, my heart-centered entrepreneurs, those who identify as psychic and play with their spirit gifts on a continuous basis. Now, I came out as a psychic, and it was a very big thing, in around 2017. It was the year before I met Lewis, actually, and I'd been going through a lot of turmoil in my life, like a lot of chaosness, and I turned to spirit. I turned to my communication and my gifts, and I started to embody it inside of my natural everyday life. Now, I remember doing my first angel card reading for my mom, and she was like, what is this? What is this shit? But I knew that it was my calling. I knew it was my everything. And my family has always been a little bit like, oh, it's the elephant in the room, don't speak about it. We're a little bit, reserved when it comes down to that open-mindedness. And I would say even to this day, there's not a quite clear understanding of what me being psychic entails and how talented I am at what it is that I do. Now, it's funny because my dad's grandmother, she was actually a tea leaf reader, which those of you who have had tea leaf readings with me will know that that's where I channel the most potent energy. And I know it's her speaking to me through the ancestral realm. Now, that side of the family is very open, and I've given a lot of readings to my dad's side of the family, and there's this open-mindedness and this mutual respect of who I am and what I do. But today's episode is not actually about coming out as a psychic, so I don't know why I'm riffing on all of this, because actually what I want to riff on is this very real topic and this very real communication of you can't fit me in a box as a psychic. Now, that sounds pretty much straightforward because I'm a psychic, and do you ever fit in a box, especially as someone who's born into a conservative family? However, it's not as straightforward as you think because it's 2024, right? So we've had this big new age uprise of spirituality, and we've had this big evolution of people working with spirit and embodying spirit in everyday life. And with that, it's actually created more of a box in my opinion. Because people start to fit themselves in this box of, well, I'm a psychic, and therefore everything that I do has to represent that I'm a psychic. Or I'm an intuitive, and everything that I do has to, embody the fact that I'm an intuitive. And to me, that just didn't resonate because, yes, I'm a psychic, and yes, I work with spirit, and I channel past, present, future, past spirit, all timelines, and I can give very, very clear readings. But for me, it's not where my gifts end. I don't just desire to be a psychic. And for a long time, I battled this because I'd always been a businesswoman. And even when I look back at my massage business, I look back at, the things that I'd done with marketing, I knew that business was where I thrived, and it was where I really came to life, and you could feel my energy and see these very tangible communications of who I was and what I brought to the surface. But for a long time, I just felt like that was going to confuse my audience. Well, I'm just a psychic, right? I'm just a psychic, so I can't embody all these qualities of business and marketing and strategy because that's just going to be confusion. Confusion. I just made up a word, you guys. But that's ultimately bullshit. And it's bullshit because we all have multiple sides. And it doesn't matter whether you're an intuitive, whether you're a psychic, whether you're a heart-centered entrepreneur. There are so many different sides of you, and you just are who you say you are. We can't be out of integrity as psychic, intuitives, and heart-centered entrepreneurs because we live in an integrity by offering to be a channel and a communicator. And once I realized that authenticity is not, me just being spirit. Authenticity is me accepting I have multiple ways in which spirit channels through me. That is when I really gave myself permission to identify as a business coach. Because yes, in the logical realm, spirit and business don't make sense together. But to me, even your average middle-aged white man, he uses spirit to scale his business because he had a good gut instinct about what he's here to do and how he's here to serve. And he had a gut instinct about the strategies that he's meant to include inside of his business. And all of those are what amplified his business to be successful. So even those who identify as more logical, they're still using spirit and embodying those qualities in their everyday life. But for me, I had to get to this really comfortable place that says, yes, I'm spirit, but I don't just have to be that person. I don't just have to be spirit. There are numerous different sides of me, and numerous different sides of me that I'm not willing to cage. I'm not willing to just identify with love and light and flow. And I feel in the beginning of my business, I actually almost got guilt tripped into this by, whether it be mentors, whether it be social media, guilt tripped into feeling like I had to identify as like, oh, this big like love and light guru, and it all has to like be flowy and make sense to spirit. But that's not who I am. And I feel like that is my biggest quality, is I can drop in and channel spirit, and we can do some very, very deep intentional work. But then also I'm going to make sure that you're carrying out that vision to the highest capacity, because in my eyes, spirit is carrying out your vision to the highest capacity. It is you saying, okay, I see this for my life, for my future, for my business, and therefore I'm going to find the strategies and the identity that best align to make this a reality. So with that, you have to give yourself permission to say there's more than just the channel here. The channel comes into physical fruition by me making sure that my physical surrounding matches up. And if my physical surrounding isn't playing in the expression and the boldness with its strategies, with its communication, with its content creation, then it doesn't matter how in my spirit I am, there's going to be a limitation. And for me, like, this just made sense. And if you've ever worked with me, you'll know that I speak about multiple layers of the spirit journey, from the minute that spirit drops in and we channel the connection. But then that connection goes through our emotional body. And our emotional body is everything that we've been, programmed to in our life, our triggers, our confidence, what we feel like we can hold. So if your emotional body is downplaying that connection with spirit, you are never going to carry out that communication the way that spirit intended. So you have to drop in and say, what is the frequency that spirit intended with this channel? What is the emotional resistance that I need to let go of here so that I can really hold the stamina that spirit intended? And then as that feeds through even further, you have to then drop into what is the physical communication. And the physical communication for me is anything that leaves our body. It's leaving our body to exchange with our audience, with our social media, with the people in our surrounding. And you have to make sure that they're receiving the message the way that was intended by spirit. And if you're not looking at how to elevate the communication by your inner businesswoman or your inner business day, you're not allowing yourself to really play in the bigger extension of who you get to be. So I feel like my message today is, where do you need to give yourself permission to just accept that you just are heart, you just are spirit, you just are psychic, you just are intuitive. But that is not all that you are. You don't have to place yourself in a box. You don't have to say, okay, get back to your seat. That's the only offers that you can create. You can do whatever the fuck you want. It's your business. It's your life. It's the greater extension of what you're creating. You can do whatever the fuck you desire. But if you're gonna do whatever it is that you desire, you have to have the confidence to accept that there are multiple different parts of you. There are multiple different ways that you serve your community and that you really accelerate your gifts. I know that I can drop in and do a spirit reading, but I also know that I can drop in and I can guide somebody's business through strategy. And you are not going to see me define myself by this is who you are, that's who you are, and choose a seat at the table. Because choosing a seat at the table is confusing the fuck out of entrepreneurs. Because people are suddenly in this energy of, well, if I step into strategy, then I'm losing my heart. Or if I, listen to spirit too much, then I'm not really choosing the biggest extension of my business. It's all fucking bullshit. You can be whoever you desire to be. You can play with whatever energy you desire to play with. But if you're going to be whoever you desire to be and you're going to play with whatever energy you desire to play with, you have to give yourself permission to own all parts of you. And owning all parts of you requires you to say, I'm not going to sit in one table or the other. I'm going to sit in between. Like, we're not in high school. I'm not picking a table. I'm going to sit in between because that's where I belong as a misfit, as somebody who's really understanding how the strategy, the energy, the identity, and it all makes sense together. I'm going to sit in between both tables. And how you choose to see that is up to you. But I know that the middle table is equally as powerful as choosing a table. So I'm going to allow myself to elevate from the middle rather than elevate from a side. And that was the most powerful, potent energy that I ever stepped into inside of my whole business. So if you're listening to this, I urge you to get really fucking crystal clear on where are you holding perspective on which side you need to be in, and how is holding perspective on the side actually crippling the greater extension of your business.